Right, yo, peace. You know what I'm saying? Just wanted to do a video about something it's been in the news. So, the situation in the border, right? And so, I technically they're not gonna call it open borders, but it feels like open borders. It feels like they're just allowing a lot of people in, and I understand. See, it's a mess because the situation in Mexico, right? Basically, the drug cartels control most of the country. So the whole system, you know what I'm saying, is basically run by drug money. And so there's lawlessness. There's no really law. And I've never been to Mexico, but I'm just from what I heard and from what I've seen and in the news. I mean, when you got dudes getting their head chopped off in the head, they're hanging their heads on the highway and the bridges. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a sign of lawlessness. When you have a military force going down there in a certain city and trying to have a shootout with the drug cartels and the drug cartels win, then that's a fucking problem. So that's a freaking problem, you know what I'm saying? So, I understand why a lot of people in Mexico want to come here. And I could definitely tell you that when they do get here, some of them go back because they realize it's tough out here. You know, and it's not like they're gonna get treated special. They're gonna get treated eventually like second class citizens because the whole system treats people of color that way, you know. But speaking as a New Yorker, born and raised in New York City, like, I think it's gonna be a problem just accepting all these immigrants from Mexico and Ecuador. Now, a lot of them work hard. Most of them work hard. A lot of them work hard. Some of them had the bad habits like Americans do, but they work hard. And I know some of them personally in my job. Recently, even some females started working in my job from Ecuador and Mexico, and they work hard. They work hard. The English is not that good, which is why there's a lot of reasons why I support the immigration system the way it should be, because you take the classes, you learn English, you learn the law, learn the Constitution, then you come to this country, and that's the way it should be. Now I know I'm Puerto Rican, so people come from Puerto Rico and all that. At least my grandmother taught herself English, so But I agree. But then that's a whole different situation because I don't even believe Puerto Rico should be a commonwealth and should become a state. I think it should become independent. But that's a different story. And I think the other problem that that I feel is a problem is the overpopulation. We do have an overpopulation problem in this country, and it's not from poor people. Although some poor people have a lot of kids. They shouldn't have a lot of kids. There's people who shouldn't have kids at all who have a lot of kids. There's people who shouldn't have kids at all who have one kid. Again, that's kind of like a different story, but the majority of like the overpopulation problem we have, it's mostly from rich people, because rich people tend to have more kids, but especially religious groups. You know what I'm saying? Like the Hasidic Satmars, the polygamists. You know what I'm saying? The Mormons. Like they all have a lot of kids. I mean, obviously we all know why. I don't want to get into details of it. They have a lot of kids in New York City. In New York City, it's the Hasidic Satmars that's overpopulating the city. Their wives don't work, the women don't work, so they tend to have lots of kids because they don't work. And that should change, obviously. The Jewish leaders, the politicians like Chuck E. Cheese Schumer and Don Hyken, whatever his last name is. I don't really care to pronounce his last name the right way because all these politicians are trash. They have to educate the women that why they should work and all that. Fuck the religious belief, because if they really followed the Torah and all that, and they want to live through their own system, why don't they just get buy land and move somewhere else? Why move over here to our neighborhood, forcing Puerto Ricans and African Americans to move out? You know what I'm saying? Like, that don't make no sense. And the city gives them money. They get. My mother seen them in the food stamp place. So that whole system the system in New York City is pretty messed up, and that should change automatically. That Jewish women should work. They shouldn't have a lot of kids. That's it. Fuck the Torah. You know what I'm saying? Like, follow the rules of New York City. Follow the rules of the United States. So that's so we have and every couple has like 12 to 20 kids. So that's an overpopulation problem right there. So on top of that, none of these politicians are gonna speak on that because they get the vote. They get them a lot of votes from the Hasidic community because the Hasidic community is a powerful bloc. They come together. They stick together. That's why they can move people out, take the building down, build a bigger Jewish settlement right in the same neighborhood. That's all you see in Williamsburg is Jewish settlements or Jewish divisions. And so the politicians don't want to say anything bad because the other politicians could say, oh, you're anti-Semitic. So that other politician will get the vote of the Hasidic community, and they vote in power. So it's all about politics, elections. So our new mayor is not going to say anything bad about the Hasidic community and the problem of overpopulation. Same thing with immigration. It's politics. But the influx of God knows how many Mexicans are coming into New York City is just going to create a breakdown. And a lot of these Mexicans and Ecuadorian people are not educated. Not all of them are going to find jobs right away. They're going to be begging on the street, just like a lot of Americans, black and white, you see all over New York City begging on the street. Like, it's going to create a problem. And the economy is about to collapse. New York City is about to collapse. Jersey City is ready to collapse. I'm going to do a separate video on it. But half of New York City has been decimated. You go to places like 125th Street in Harlem, like half of 125th Street has been gentrified. The other is just empty buildings, boarded up. I mean, Chunky's out there. It shouldn't be that way. Same thing in the Bronx, Brooklyn. It's better compared to that, but you still got foreclosures that go on all the time in the black and brown neighborhoods in Brooklyn. So on top of that, you're bringing in all the immigrants from Mexico and Ecuador, and that's just going to create a whole different problem. It's going to where are you going to put them? You're going to put them in the shelter system. But the shelter system, what about recently there was a massive fire in Brooklyn, right? What about all those people? Are those people going to get put in a shelter nearby, or is that shelter full and they have to go to a shelter far away outside of their neighborhood, which I think is ridiculous, right? Nobody ever addresses the situation, and not even the radio, not even NPR or nothing, let alone the 10 o'clock news or the 6 o'clock news. So the whole system is completely messed up, fucked up. You know what I'm saying? And, Eric Adams is not going to address it. He's accepting these immigrants that are not here legally, that can't speak English. Some of them don't have an education. Some of them are very young. Some of them might have issues that a lot of Americans have with, as far as We don't know. I mean, alcoholic issues and all that. So we're just adding on to a problem. And again, I stress that a lot of Mexicans that come here are hardworking, real great people. Um, they come here and they really want to participate. Um, but there's a way to do it without legally, where you can actually learn English, study the law, the Constitution. That way, if something happens and you want to make a business here in this country, you know your rights. You know, it's bad enough that most Americans don't even know their rights. That I don't even know every law off the top of my head, obviously. And we're living in a situation where people are being squeezed out. The IRS is just penalizing people so that way they can keep the money and give it to hire more IRS agents. We know this. Same thing, you're not allowed to take out 600 because if you do, then they report it to the IRS, which I think is crazy, you know? So it's like the IRS is really going after us. They're not really going after rich people. And if they do go after rich people, they're gonna go after Hollywood actors. You know what I'm saying? Like Wesley Snipes. Like what the fuck? What about Henry Kissinger? What about half of the people on Wall Street? What about all these politicians that have offshore accounts? You know what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't make sense. They're going after us. So we're the ones that get burning with it. We're the ones that get pushed out, squeezed out, get put in the homeless shelters, and all of that. And then there's a lot of people in our community that have mental issues. The crack really hit hard in some black and brown neighborhoods, not all, but the heroin is everywhere. And you're just adding on to the situation that Eric Adams still hasn't addressed really where to put people who have mental issues, where to put drug. You got rehabilitation centers all over the country, and in front of those rehabilitation centers, you see people getting strung out. So obviously they're not getting rehab, even though they're in rehab. It's because there's drug dealers everywhere. Why are the drug dealers? Why is everybody hustling? You know, where the drugs coming from. A lot of the drugs is not coming from us. Some of it is being made by us, but then some of it is coming from overseas. Allied countries. I said this before. Colombia, places like that. Those are our allies. So obviously we're not going to condemn the Colombian government because we do business down there. So there's all these issues that haven't been addressed, and it's just going to shock the hell out of the American system. The country is going to. I thought the 2020 riots, and those were riots. I don't support breaking windows. That was close. And then when January 6th happened, I'm like, damn, is this? When I saw January 6th, I thought this whole country was going to go into the Civil War. Like, I believe at that point that America could just fall apart. For good and for bad, it's going to fall apart. And I say for good because it will be a lesson to all of us not to vote Democrat or Republican ever again, But for bad, because obviously if this country falls apart, be a civil war, or maybe not like the Civil War that we know, but it will be like mini civil wars within civil wars, And some of the mass shootings, some of those mass shootings happen in the military. So, and then you got military people coming back not normal. So you're bringing with all those problems, you're gonna bring all these immigrants in. They don't really have a place to stay. They don't really have jobs, and it's just gonna create a big mess, and the system is just gonna collapse. And the housing market is about to collapse. You're building all these condos, right? Half of these condos are half empty. For a long time. For a long time, they've been half empty. I've been told this because I work around these condos. So, it's one right behind me. So, I disagree. Me personally, so if they're willing to work right away, yes. I mean, there's some Mexicans that are hard workers that, they're real good people, spiritual people. But you can't just bring a whole bunch of people illegally into the country and into New York City or into any city. It's just if you haven't addressed other issues like gentrification. Eric Adams hasn't addressed gentrification. He hasn't addressed, the homeless shelters and the fact that a lot of people that are in these homeless shelters are not getting help at all. They shouldn't be in homeless shelters. They should be in rehab or getting mental health issues, mental health clinics. You got mentally ill people in the shelter system. That's how messed up that is. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. And so when you like in this area here, Long Island City, you build a homeless shelter. Some of the people are good, but I noticed all of a sudden there's dudes getting high that I've never seen get high in this area before. This is not a hood. This is not even middle class. This is upper middle class neighborhood. So upper class neighborhood. Condos everywhere. All of a sudden you see dudes talking to themselves walking around. You see dudes I saw a dude getting high in front of my store. Like, that's just crazy. I've never seen that in this area before. So those kinds of people should not be in homeless shelters. So obviously something is not right. And there has to be a real group effort by everybody in the city to do something about that. And then to stop allowing it. Stop bringing in the immigrants for now. In the country in general. This country is overpopulated. We complain about this. I agree, there's too many trees being taken down, forests are being cut down. But I agree with them, but those same people who say that are want the immigrants to just come here. But what do you think is going to happen if there's too many people? Where are you going to put them? You can't put them in the city. You're going to put them in the suburbs. You can't put them in the suburbs. You're going to have to put them in the rural areas. That's not too far away from the rural areas of the forest, and you got to cut down and make space so that way you could build buildings for the immigrants. See, illegal immigrants. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to have some kind of like a knowledge and common sense when you speak about these things. You can't just bring people in this country, especially since America is a half narco state anyway. Half of the economy, the American economy, half of the American economy is controlled by the drug trade. Okay, the mafia still controls the country. You're not hearing that. People are not saying that. Giuliani's claiming he brought the mob down. Not true. They're in higher elevations now. Where do you think the drugs is coming from now? Why do you think a company tied to organized crime was able to go to ground zero and take all the debris away? Under the nose of the FBI, under the nose of the intelligence community of our national security state in downtown Manhattan, New York City. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that don't happen unless they wanted it to happen and unless they turn the other way. And there's a lot of evidence that the mob is embedded with our national security state, embedded with the CIA, embedded with these politicians, and that there's even an international drug trade that a lot of people in our government are connected to. So, what the evidence shows, in my opinion. So I just wanted to address that. And I don't believe in open borders. I believe we have enough issues as it is. And just like every other immigrant, Mexicans should come in here the same way. You can't just bring them in here. And you're still not addressing the drug cartels in Mexico. That's not going to stop the organized Mexican criminals to control the country. There's a history with that also. Again, the organized crime syndication that involves the Mexicans too. And so there's a lot of evidence that we, at various times, including modern time, have aided and abetted the drug cartels in Mexico, let alone drug traffickers that are tied to terrorism in the Middle East and all that. So those are the reasons why I'm against open borders or anything like open borders and just bringing illegal immigrants into New York City. As good as they are, they should stop and do it the right way. And let's get rid of NAFTA and other other things, foreign policies that are contributing to the poverty and the crime rate of those countries, especially in Mexico and Latin America and Africa, and the Caribbean. You know, I don't think they're gonna do that, and I have my reasons why, but that's what they should do. Because our foreign policy is basically an organized crime foreign policy. We were just supporting terrorism and organized crime. Even though we're saying we're fighting terrorism, we're not. We're at some ways, like you look at Libya and Syria, we supported terrorism. Those are the same factions that supposedly are connected to Osama bin Laden. So what side are we on? Fun and games, remember that? For those of you who know your CIA history, fun and games. We support one side, then we support the other side to overthrow the side that we supported once. Fun and games, like Cuba, fun and games. That's what they call it, fun and games. So that's why I'm against all these illegal immigrants coming to New York City. It's not hating on Mexicans. There are Mexicans that are here legally, but I'm against that because of that. And it's like I said, a lot of them are lazy because they do construction work, supermarkets, all that. But as an American, I'm looking at it as an American from all the poverty, the drugs, gentrification, overcrowding, and overpopulation by mostly the Hasidic community here in New York City. Like, it's a problem. And it's a problem that liberals don't want to touch. But I'm not liberal. No, I'm not a conservative. I'm not liberal. Although I believe in both. Deep down, I believe in both. Liberal is freedom. I believe in freedom. Conservative values, I believe in traditional values like family and preserving buildings and stuff like that. That's conservative. Like Clinton Hill, Brooklyn, conserving Clinton Hill, Brooklyn, that's conservative. So we all have conservative and liberalism in us, but I'm a progressive, first and foremost. You know what I'm saying? I'm speaking as a progressive who cares about Americans and poor people of color, mainly. I'm speaking on that, okay? I would love to see a known liberal from YouTube or from cable news see my video and respond to me, because I've never had any established liberals respond to me. Well, conservatives, I don't really care about them. You know what I'm saying? But prove me wrong. Anybody from TYT, prove me wrong. Anybody from CNN or MSNBC, prove me wrong. NPR, prove me wrong. Democracy Now, prove me wrong. Pacifica, prove me wrong. This is what I feel, and this is what a lot of people in my community feel. This is how we feel. But I'm speaking with my own mind, my own judgment. All right. I might do another video later, but peace.